Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today I wanted to do a video on my fridge freezer. It's a GE product, as you can see, and it's about 8 years old. And for those of you who may have an updated appliance, say maybe 10, 12 years old, something similar to this, in your owner's manual you will see, you will read that there's an expectation of hearing different noises in these new fridges. Popping noises, whirling noises, swishing noises of almost like flowing water, ticking and tapping. It's all normal. And indeed, when we first got this fridge, it did exactly that. And up to about 2 weeks ago, it was doing exactly that. But I noticed about 2 weeks ago that the fridge was making a peculiar different noise. It was a bit louder than normal, and it was constant, pretty well constant. So I monitored that for a day or so, and I noticed that the fridge and freezer, or freezer, I'm not sure, was in a lot of labor. It seemed like it was running constantly. So I checked for the temperatures in the freezer unit down below and up top, and everything seemed to be as normal, and the food was keeping very well. However, it didn't sound right, and it certainly wasn't. It would make a running noise, and then after a while it would kind of like it seemed like the RPM of the compressor or the fan would pick up just slightly for a moment and then kick back. So it was sort of like I thought that maybe the fan bushing or bearing was going, maybe the grease had dried out of it, was drying up, or maybe bled out through excessive heat, or the compressor. I wasn't sure what it was. So I continued to monitor, and all the food seemed to be as normal for the next 2 weeks. But a few days after I noticed the issue, I noticed a small patch of crystal, kind of ice, a little tiny patch in the bottom of the fridge, in the freezer part, right back here, if I can get down in there, pretty much to the right of that panel, right in that spot. You can see, not the tray. That's where that little patch of crystal ice, or like it was a patch frozen there. And I thought that maybe normal, because the fridge was full of food, frozen food. And sorry about that, struck the button. So anyway, I thought it might have been normal, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But I unplugged the fridge for 10 minutes, the first thing I did. Plugged it back in, and it didn't seem to do anything. I unplugged it then for an hour and plugged it back in a couple of days later. That didn't do nothing. She still seemed to be in that weird kind of noisy situation. So eventually, I got to the point where I said I'm going to have a good deep look at the fridge. I went into the back, and on the back of the fridge, when I pulled it out, there's a panel that you can unscrew some bolts and get access to the compressor, the condenser or the evaporator, a little copper wire with fins on it, cooling fins. And I tried to vacuum out the dust that was there. Didn't work very well with the vacuum, but the compressor worked very well at blowing it out. I blew it clean and put everything assembled back together, but the fridge was still doing the same thing. So at that point I thought, well, maybe it's time to bring in a technician to have a look at the fridge, because I think we may have a problem, and I don't know what it's going to cost, but we may be looking at purchasing a new fridge. However, I inspected the fridge yesterday morning, and I noticed that the whole back of the fridge, in the freezer part I should say, was coated with crystal ice, frozen like onto the wall, just on the back. And it was starting to build up more and more, it would seem. And so I got to thinking, well, maybe I just got to take this fridge and let it totally defrost, especially the deep freeze. So I left the doors shut on top, because of the stuff would keep cool for 24 hours in there in the fridge. But I did remove all the meats and everything from the bottom freezer, and cleaned out the whole shelf, got rid of all the ice that was built up there, the crystalline, and then he just left the unit unplugged for 8 hours. While we were doing it, like I said, I cleaned out the bottom tray and everything, so it was all ready for reassembly. And after 8 hours in the evening, I plugged the fridge back in, and lo and behold, it's back to normal. So I wanted to make this video to make people aware that, that if you ever have this issue, this may be something that may resolve your issue with this type of fridge. If it starts sounding like it's in labor and just doing a constant droning, it's probably because it's the evaporator inside probably needs a thaw. It's probably freezing up. It's probably got too cold, and it's just going into a deep cold mode and freezing up. I'm not exactly sure what had happened, but it's definitely something to do with over freezing, moisture getting froze or built up or something. And so now the fridge has been working wonderfully for the past 2 days, I should say. 24 hours, I should say, since I plugged it in yesterday. And I haven't put meats back into the bottom yet. I just want to monitor that. But the top of the fridge is perfect. And I did check the tray in the bottom, and the trays are nice and cold. So I'm hoping this video may be helpful to somebody down the road, as it was a very peculiar thing going on. And I didn't have to get a technician in. Just unplugged it, put my meat in another deep freeze, and let it thaw out. And she's back to normal. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. Thank you for watching and for your patience. And we'll catch you on the next video.